Valentine's Day expert Karol Markowicz about to join us here. She is also a part of the Clay and Buck podcast alongside of Tudor Dixon. Buck, as he just shared, has run downstairs to go get the flowers that they are delivering for his lovely wife, Carrie. Karol, I apologize to all the men out there who have just realized it's Valentine's Day, but I asked an important question earlier. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and New Year's Eve, as a man, seem to be days that are designed primarily where men can only do things wrong. That is where things can only go awry. Relationships can be torn asunder.
Yeah.
Is there a female equivalent for relationship day, in your opinion, that women feel similarly pressured as men do on the 3 days that I just mentioned?
No, of course not, because men are far easier creatures than women. Sorry, that's just how it goes. We look good, but we're complicated. And you guys, less complicated, but you have your other pluses and minuses.
I just want to
So there's never a day, Karol, where you're like, oh my God, if I screw this up, I'm going to have to deal with issues from my husband.
No.
Because you can just put it, here's the thing. Every woman knows you can just put on a nice dress.
Right.
And your husband, and heels, and your husband will forgive almost everything.
Right. Or take that nice dress off and everything, you're good to go.
It's true. It's 100%
Karol,
true.
We got one here from our VIP, Tracy. She writes, Clay and Buck, and if I'm out of breath, it's because I had to sprint. Carrie's going to be back any second. And it's a live show. I had to sprint to get the flowers because otherwise they're just going to be like left by the gate. Right. And I want them to be in the home. So anyway, I had to get the flowers, bring them up, set them up. Oof, man, I got to do more cardio. Tracy writes in, Clay and Buck, I worked at a grocery store while going to college. I learned how frustrated men were on Valentine's Day as they were scrambling to find something to drag home to appease the wife. They would tell me how livid they were. They had to rush the store to get some gift for their partner, always claiming it's not good enough for her, and I'm going to hear about my shortcomings in choosing her a gift. Isn't it more true now than ever, Karol, that when it comes to Valentine's Day, it is the thought that counts? Like, if you get a smooch and a single rose, like that should be it. This whole holiday strikes me as missing the point sometimes.
So it's funny because of the 3 holidays you mentioned, I don't do 2 of them. New Year's Eve and Valentine's Day, I'm not into it. We've never celebrated them. I mean, we may get together with friends on New Year's Eve, but we're never the people who get the $5,000 prefix menu at the restaurant and go to some hot party. Never. And Valentine's Day, I find it cheesy. I try not to rain on other people's parades about it, so I don't, write long think pieces about how Valentine's Day, this is this corporate holiday, all that. But I love Mother's Day. And Mother's Day, I gave you 3 children. It better be the biggest day of the year. You better have thought about it in advance. I don't want you waking up on that Sunday morning and being like, oh, where do you want to go today? Absolutely not. But I have to say that it's the thought that really women are missing. I don't think that they care very much about what the grand gestures. Maybe some do, but, don't marry women like that. I think it's the thought that they feel like men are not putting into it. And that, for me, again, on Mother's Day, it would be less about how much he spent on the gift or whatever, but that he considered it in advance. He didn't just, wing it. And that's really what it's all about.
Okay, so here's my thing on Mother's Day. How old are your kids now, Karol?
They're 14, 11, and 8.
Okay, at what point do these bastards have to start pulling their own weight? Because my kids are 16, 13, and 9, and I've been covering for their asses for their entire lives, making sure that they're good for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
At what age do they have to own that it's their mom, not my mom? Like, I got to tell you, this was one of the things I wasn't prepared for as a dad. I didn't know that I would have to be covering for my kids on Mother's Day for someone who's not even my own mom.
Right, but she is the mom of your children. She gave you the babies. It's the day.
But when do they have to start carrying their own weight here on Mother's Day? When do I get to take a step back?
I feel like, you're right. At some point, the baton has to be handed over. But, can they make their own reservations? Can they figure out where mom needs to go? You're still paying.
So, Karol,
I'm going to pay for everything for the rest of their lives, honestly. This is what I'm coming to. Buck, this is what you have to be on the ball for when you start having kids.
Yeah.
Indeed. She's in our podcast stream, everybody, so make sure you subscribe to the Clay and Buck podcast for the Karol Markowicz show, which is doing great download numbers already because all of you are enjoying it so much. So please Go check that out. Karol, we think it's so important. You and Tudor, you're our ladies who add that ladies touch, that ladies voice into the mix here, because it was a little guy heavy. Well, I guess it's always guy heavy here on the radio, but little guy heavy talking about Valentine's. But I want to offer you this. Tracy, our VIP, also put this out there. What do you think about this suggestion? She wrote in, after seeing how frustrated men were and realizing how ridiculous this holiday is, I decided to give my husband a get out of jail free card and hold him for the only holiday we would celebrate is our anniversary, as it is our day, not some crazy retail holiday.
Yep.
We've been married 44 years this week. I know I made his life much better by eliminating this pressure for Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, that's what we do in our relationship too. Our anniversary is a big deal. My birthday is a big deal. Again, Mother's Day is a big deal. But these other holidays, we literally don't even acknowledge it. Like, we did not wish each other a happy Valentine's Day today. But you know what I have enjoyed? Like, in the past, when we first got married, we didn't celebrate Valentine's Day. I said I wasn't into it, and my husband was obviously really happy to hear that. But then, like, a few years in, like on February 12th, I like to say, like, oh, hey, what are we doing for Valentine's Day? And watch the look of, like, fear on his face. It's a really good time. It only works like once or twice, but
that is fantastic. By the way, I didn't even think about the anniversary. Women just stack series of obligations on men who are birthday too, like so many different things out there that we are awful at. And it's like a constant test that we fail. And I don't understand, like, there's no equivalent that men do to women, right? Like, there's no day that I can point to and say, if you care about me, you will be perfect on this day.
Right. No, again, we have higher expectations, and that's the way it works, the low expectations that we have of men never works out for them. They need that higher bar to clear. It's part of the whole, evolution of the species.
Karol, what do you got on the podcast? For people who have not yet listened to your podcast, what will they find when they go listen to it in the Clay and Buck feed? It's
a podcast about life. It's a podcast where I ask people about how they got to where they are in their career, whether they think that they've made it, suggestions that they have for my listeners on how they can improve their lives. I've gotten so many people messaging me. I generally end with the question, a tip for my listeners to improve their lives. And I hear from people all the time that they're using those tips. And the one that I hear about the most is the Buck Sexton tip, where he said that he reads before bed and it puts him like in a better place before sleep. I started doing it. I mean, a lot of people that write to me have done it. And, I think that that's an easy change in your life. It's a podcast about life in our crazy world, and I want people to be able to benefit from it and not just.
Well, thank you, Karol. By the way, I just tell everybody that is, I think it's a game changer. It's also part of and this gets me heat from people, Karol. No TV in the bedroom. I tell people no TV in the bedroom, because you know what you're doing if there's no TV in the bedroom? Reading, sleeping, or cuddling.
Or other things.
Or cuddling. Those are the things you are doing. There's a TV room. It should not be the bedroom. It all ties into my read before you go to sleep. I have a Kindle. I put it on the low light setting. I pass out like a baby. I read for 20 or 30 minutes. No problem going to sleep every night. And I end up reading 2-3 books a month that way, every month, just from that. So I'm so glad that your people have found that to be, your listeners, to be useful. Do. And everyone should go check out the Karol Markowicz podcast. I'm waiting for Carrie to come home any minute. I'm just desperate that she get home, Clay, before the puppy figures out that there's this big thing that looks like it might be fun to chew in the middle of the table, because she technically can't get up there, but she's like a velociraptor in Jurassic Park. She finds out how to open doors and move chairs. Karol, thank you for being here. Subscribe to the Karol. Well, actually, just subscribe to the Clay and Buck podcast, and then listen to the Karol Markowicz show, which is in there. Karol, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and tell your husband I was at the Super Bowl, and I'd love to see him there, but since he's a Cowboys fan, I never will.
Mean, Clay. Very mean.
No, in all seriousness, happy Valentine's Day to you.
Happy Valentine's Day to you both.
Women out there whose husbands are going to forget to tell you, or boyfriends are going to forget to tell you.